So if it doesn't make good business sense, don't do it. And actually, that's a very good lean agile principle. But despite how much research there is out there that supports the fact that there really is no question any longer, agile and lean techniques are clearly superior, still, they don't always pass the sniff test. Last week, I was presenting at Bell Labs in New Jersey for Alcatel-Lucent, and I put this exact same picture up there, and a guy pointed at this statement and says, you know, that doesn't even pass the most basic sniff test. The work that David F. Rico did last year on trying to analyze the ROI for a lot of different kinds of methodologies, not just agile methodologies, but lean methodologies and other traditional methodologies as well, including PSP, TSP, and the CMMI approaches, as well as the RUP approaches. Despite the fact that Rico is a well-respected statistician, despite the fact that he had, very carefully selected the 57 different studies so that they had solid, concrete, quantitative data, and not just qualitative things, people don't believe when he says that for hybrid agile techniques, where we take the best of breed, which is really the second generation of agile techniques, the ROI is 2,633%. Versus, and that's not to say that it's 26 times better, you have to understand that traditional techniques also have a positive ROI of 470%. But what the fellow said was, that doesn't even pass the most basic sniff test. All right? I don't believe you. Earlier this year, I was here in London, and I went out to the Goerner headquarters out in the southwest of London. And I talked to their top agile analyst. And the top agile analyst, this was the very first topic I talked to him about because I had just discovered the Rico study. And I asked him, do you have a problem convincing people about the ROI and all the validity of the studies? And he says, yeah, we have a terrible problem with that. I have personal data that the ROI is 8x over traditional software development methods. And I said, yeah, but they don't believe you. And he says, no, they don't really. And I say, so what do you claim? I claim half of that. But there is some truth to this matter. There is some reason for some skepticism because most of the research has been done in this context, Agile for the small team. There is a second generation of literature that is growing up. This is important for you to understand. In most all disciplines, as it grows up, you get different generations of literature, and if you're not careful, you'll start reading the older literature, the first generation literature, and not realizing that many of those ideas have been advanced significantly, have been superseded. We are now seeing the emergence of a second generation of literature that goes beyond Agile for the team to really scale it up to full enterprise issues. And the topics we're talking about actually look much more like traditional topics. But we're taking a new twist on it. We talk a lot about risk management in Agile Agility. Agile Agility, enterprise agility. We talk a lot about backlog management. We talk about metrics, visibility, accountability. These are all the kinds of topics we need to talk about if we're going to interest our business partners. And one of the key challenges for enterprise agility is to heal the breach between IT and the business. To get the business to understand that we mean business too. So we're not here to do this just because it's cool. We're here because we really are and need to be good business people. And we need to explore what it means to be in the second generation. And so that's what I want to talk about today. I want to present you with a sketch of some of these key topics, a small microcosm. Now, the material I'm going to be presenting to you is somewhat intermediate in level. Many of you probably have had some exposure to Agile. If you haven't, that's all right. I will hope to punctuate my comments well enough that you'll still be able to get the gist of the value out of this. But I also want to make note and start off by talking about this notion of naive Agile and faux Agile. In some ways, Agilists are their own worst enemy and have created some of the skepticism that I hear all the time from my enterprise clients. They say, well, we hear a lot about the fact that you guys don't do documentation. You don't believe in process. I hear that you are one of the riskiest ways I can develop software because you don't believe in doing these things. And I said, why on earth do you believe that? And I came to an understanding of the reason why Agilists, especially of the first generation, are starting to poison the well is because it goes back to this original statement of the Agile Manifesto. In September of 2000, a group of Agilists got together just as they were trying to establish the brand and published the Agile Manifesto, which was essentially a humanist manifesto about software development. The strong belief was people build solutions. Processes don't. Tools don't. People do this. And it was a humanist manifesto, and the problem with this Agile Manifesto is a couple of things. First, very often they forget the last sentence. The last sentence says, while there is value in the things on the right, these are valuable. We give greater value to the things on the left. But unfortunately, human beings are either-or thinkers. They're polar thinkers. And so what they've come to believe is, well, we do those things, we don't do these. So we don't do process. We don't use tools. We don't do documentation. We don't make commitments. Trust us, we'll get it done. We haven't proven that trust. Not in the enterprise we haven't. And this is, in fact, simply wrong. We do, in fact, have a very stringent process, a very strong discipline. We do, in fact, believe strongly in tools. Automation is one of our principal levers for productivity. We do believe in documentation, just documentation that actually proves itself. The Agile attitude about documentation is simply this: never write anything that is not going to be read. If it's not going to be read and not going to be consumed, don't do it. That's a waste of energy. It's not that we don't believe in it, we just believe that it ought to serve a purpose. And we do believe in commitments passionately. So we've set the stage, and I walk in and I encounter this very frequently these days. Over the last year, I've had at least 5 different encounters with my clients where people say, I'm really not sure I want to even talk to you. I hear this Agile stuff is really extremely risky because you don't do, you don't do, you don't do, you don't do. And we actually started that ourselves. That's not true. What I want to show you today, what I want to offer you today, is I want to offer you 10 little nuggets. Things that I consider to be really valuable, things that were insights that I've come to. They're not golden nuggets, they're not that valuable, but silver nuggets. One of the first things I want to offer you is I want to offer you a little model of just exactly what are the issues in enterprise agility. Because even in the literature on enterprise agility, we have taken a very narrow view. And we tend to believe that enterprise agility simply means, how do I scale teams? How do I deal with really large teams that are more than 10 people? How do I deal with teams that are 250 people scattered across 12 time zones, all right, in 5 different locations, all working to the same goal, to the same project? And so we talk about scaling, we talk about multicultural, we talk about distributed teams, and we talk about scrums of scrums. And for many people, that's the end of the topic of enterprise agility. I believe it's much richer. So I want to offer you a model of the different issues, the one that I'm working with. Then I want to focus in on 2 different aspects. 2 small pieces. Now I consider both of these pieces to be the key axis for trying to scale Agile and Lean techniques up to the enterprise. And so for me, these are really central, and that's why I want to spend so much time on them. I want to spend probably 25, 30 minutes establishing this notion about integrated backlog management. And I'll tell you more about why that's so important to me in just a second. And then I want to talk about risk profiling and risk-driven process. When my customers say to me, I'm not sure I want to talk to you about this Agile stuff because I hear it's really, really risky, I'm just shocked. Because truly, if you understand what Agile and Lean are all about, it's the exact opposite. We are passionate about managing risks. Fanatical about managing risks. How on earth did we ever get that reputation? Well, we did it for ourselves.